All right, welcome back. This is Kevin McCain with Idaho Art Class and Kevin McCain Studios. Hope you're all doing well and out there and being more creative and having fun. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Loomis Method. So I've got a video that I talked about the basic idea of the Loomis head, and I wanted to just talk a little bit more about it, clarify it a little bit. I did just like a sort of a three-quarter view, and at the end I did some quick sketchy stuff. And I wanted to go ahead and break each one of those down. I had the three columns. You have the tip or the tilt going down or tilting up, or in other words, tilting down or tilting up. We had that tilt. We had the tilt where you could actually have it where it's tilting this way or that way, and then we have where the skull can turn this way or that way, tilt this way or that way, and also tilt this way or that way. So those are the three X, Y, Z axis, as you hear some people talk about it, but we'll just go and up. This for today, we're going to talk about the up and down tilt. We're going to also talk a little bit more about this dial. So again, when I was doing the quick sketches, I mentioned this. This is it's the previous video. It's the Loomis head, the basic ideas, foundational ideas. And there's a lot of people talking about Loomis, and it's a really great thing. And there's a lot of people trying to use Loomis, and I know I've had some beginning drawing folks that like to do like manga and cartooning and these different things, and they'll grab onto Loomis because it's such a great method, and then they'll come to me and they'll go, well, wait a minute, why am I not having this work for me? I can do basic stuff, but then it starts to elude me as I start to do more stuff with Loomis. Loomis really, again, you have to really be able to think about perspective. Again, remember that Loomis is combining a circle with a block, but still a circle has perspective. If you think of this, if we carved away this correctly, we could turn this into a sphere. So whenever we deal with Loomis, we are dealing with perspective. That's the reason that you have Loomis, is it simplifies that perspective aspect. If you haven't seen the previous video, I would encourage you to at least look it over a little bit. It does go on. It covers a lot of information about Loomis. It is about a 50-minute video. It's on my YouTube channel, Kevin McCain Studios. And again, we're going to talk really today about the up and down tilt. And we're going to talk about the side dais, because there's things we want to understand about that. The first thing is we're going to be talking about the profile. Now, a lot of times with Loomis you've seen, of course, this, where you have, and the whole idea with Loomis again is that this right here that's shaded, this side has been, it's like a round ball, and you've sliced off a piece, and so this would be the piece that's been sliced off over here, and around the opposite side, around this opposite side that we can't see because it's around the corner, there's another piece, straight across here that's been sliced off. And so that's important to understand, that over here, just like here, over here would be another ellipse that would be this piece that's around the corner that's been shaved, that's been cut off. This is a flat piece back here that's around the corner that we can't see because this is in front of it. This is, again, going around the corner. Okay, so when we're dealing with Loomis, it does help, but we still have to, you still need to understand perspective. If you don't understand perspective, take some classes on it, look it up. I've got, half a dozen videos on my playlist on perspective. Start looking at boxes. The better you can envision the box, the better you'll have be able to use Loomis and kind of unlock the power of Loomis. You also have the fact that so this again is this one's come off of this side, and I'm making it light so you can understand that it's hopefully so it doesn't catch as much attention, because it's around the corner. Now it should be as open as this one. This is a little squish, so this should actually open up because these two ellipses, and in fact if we got technical, this ellipse would be wider. That's another thing, is you want to know about ellipses in perspective. that really helps with Loomis. But then you would go ahead and, you know, bring the angles over here. And remember that this right here, this is the corner of the box, right? So I already have that there's a tilt to this head, but we're not going to get into that right now because that's not what we're going to be talking about. But remember that this right here, this is the corner of the box. This is the side plane, this is the front plane. So if we went ahead and if I lined this skull up to be kind of like this image, it would be, let's see, something about like that. So this is the side plane versus the front plane, and this is right along here, along the cheekbone, or some people, this is the zygomatic bone. That's where you're going to have, that's where that changes direction, right there. And that's important to know because this, and then if this is the center line over here, the relationship of all these, that's kind of going at an angle, which is not good because these are all supposed to be parallel. There we go, that's a little better. So this and this and this are supposed to all be parallel, and it's the same idea, you know, of course this edge too if we want to, but this and this and this are all parallel. That's what these represent. Now this is a center line, so that would mean I'd have a line going right through the middle right there, but if I put a center line, again, all those would be parallel. This, this, and this, and of course there would be an edge right here that would be the edge of the box, because again, this is, we're using the box. We're using that for this, you know, for the idea of the Loomis head, right? So again, this would be that center line, and this would be the left edge, this would be the center line, this would be the right edge. Anyways, all those would be parallel. So that's important to understand too, is that unless we're doing some really extreme angle where you got like where the head's it's up and you're looking down and you start to get convergences of lines, unless you're doing something really, or if we're lifting it like this, again you're looking up at the head, and you know, something like this, and again you're getting these, you start to get these convergences of the lines because of the perspective. So they're still parallel, it's just if you tip this back, those parallel lines begin to lean towards the vanishing point. If you tip it down, they're going to start coming down to a vanishing point. But those are more extreme angles. But if you're going to work with more extreme angles, you have to understand perspective. But I want to talk about this dais right here. And the important thing about this dais is it's supposed to be, these two lines are supposed to be 90 degrees. Okay. So whenever we're doing that dais, the two lines are going to be 90 degrees. Now, again, I talked about that one of the most important things to understand Loomis. Again, you're going to want to have a good understanding of drawing and a good solid concept of perspective, because, and you'll understand more in just a second, these little boxes are supposed to be little cubes to mean that this is a true corner or it's 90 degrees. Okay. This little dais is supposed to have, these are 90-degree angles. Okay. All these angles here are 90 degrees. Okay. The only problem is, if you look really closely at this is actually more than 90. This might be a 98 degree, you know, and if that's 98 degrees, well then this would be 82 degrees. They're splaying, some are splaying open and some are getting closer. And the reason that happens is perspective. So once again, to really understand Loomis, you want to know perspective. And sometimes people are like, well, what are you talking about? What does that mean? Well, what it means is that if I have this, if I point this towards you, these are true 90-degree angles. Okay? And right now, they're not in perspective. So they are a true 90. But the moment I do this and I rotate it away from you, if you start looking at this 90 degrees, you'll start to see that you do get angles that splay open and angles that, you know, start to close down. Or if we wanted to be technical, you'd have two obtuse angles by two angles that are more acute. And that just means that, again, one's opening up a little bit and one's closing down a little bit because of the perspective. And the more I do this, and if I start tilting this, you know, in different ways, again, it becomes more and more and more, you know, obvious that that's happening. So remember that even with 90-degree angles, once you start putting those 90-degree angles into perspective, and you turn that plane, because again, this is that side head, the side plane of the head, those 90-degree angles open up and close down because they're 90 degrees in perspective. Just like this angle is 90 degrees. But if you start turning it in perspective, that 90 degrees starts to, you know, is not truly 90 anymore, because it is truly 90, but it looks, you know, like it's closing down or opening up depending on where it is to the eye line. That's a perspective term. So again, perspective really helps. So we're going to put this aside, but I want you to understand with that dais, that if you put it on the side, again, if it's flat, these will all be flat. We're going to be doing, these right here that we're going to be doing are all flat. So they'll be truly 90 degrees. But the moment I turn it, so now that I've got like what you'd call a two-point perspective, sort of a orientation, this is no longer, it's still true 90, but the angles begin to splay open because of perspective, and some begin to close down. And so again, to really unlock the best ideas of Loomis, you need some ideas of perspective. We're going to put this aside, and we're going to just put that into the gray matter. For today, we're not going to deal with that, with the splaying open of the 90-degree angles. These are facing towards us completely, so there are true 90 degrees. What we're trying to do this way is remember that as this circle gets more open, that means it's turning more. So if I had this pointed towards us like this would be a very, very, very tight ellipse. Can't see very much of the ellipse. As this turns, the ellipse gets wider. As it turns more, the ellipse gets wider. So again, this would be about like, you know, about right there, okay? But as you turn this, if you're going to turn it enough, we start to see a little bit of this side. And what happens is that once, so this is almost, it's like an, you know, like a 70-degree ellipse or something. It's almost a true circle. Okay, there's a time where it will open up to almost be a true circle, and then as this continues to turn, so again, as this continues, so if we're right here, as this continues to turn, what happens is that the ellipse becomes a circle, and the circle detaches, and it starts to drift towards the center, and it becomes this. This right here of a circle inside a circle is what we have when we are dealing with a profile. Okay, so we can go ahead and, I guess, darken this a little bit. This right here again is a circle inside a circle. And this is our 90 degrees, right, or a true 90, right, as far as that goes. And the reason I know that it's a true profile is because it's equidistant from here as it is here. So this side here is equal to that side there, which means it's a true profile. What does that mean by true profile? Well, that's where I've turned the skull so much that the center line becomes the side, and this would be a true profile, okay? And this would be where that circle would be right in the middle, okay? But what if you don't have a true profile? What if it's tilted so you still see a little bit of this side, just a tiny bit? Well, that's what these guys are. We're going to ignore the tilts here for now, because of course we do have that dais is turning and tilting. But the idea, and this guy is going to be facing, you know, the front of his face is on this side, and this one, the front of the face is on that side. But the idea is that this right here is closer there and wider here. So this is one that's getting close to the true profile, but not quite there. So it again would be something, you know, it'd be something about like this, where we can still see just a little bit of this side. and then this one's even this one's even closer than this one. So that means that again, we're seeing a little bit more, about like that. There we go, a little bit more of that side. So it's still gotten wide enough that it's turned the head enough. If we measured this proportionally, this has more area than this, because this is turned even more towards us. I'm just saying that these three are not the same. This is a true profile. This is almost true profile here. And this is a little bit, further away from true profile, but they're all pretty close. They'd just be seeing, with one, instead of seeing the true profile like this, where I can't see that far eye, it'd be turned just a bit so we can see, just a little bit of that far brow. And this other one that's still close to profile, but turned just a bit more so we'd see just a little bit more of the brow. But again, you're almost close to profile. So sometimes people are used to seeing, again, your Riley, where you got the circle, and then you got the ellipse. But remember that this right here is saying that I'm only seeing this much of this side and that much of that side. But there's a point where as this continues to turn, again, this circle gets wider and wider and wider. It doesn't get any taller because it's always just that this right here is 2/3 and this right here, this right here is 1/3 if you combine these, and this right here is 2/3. So this stays the same. It's just this gets more open. And it keeps opening until it no longer, so it keeps opening. Once it gets to be a true circle, which this is close. This again is about an 80-degree ellipse. Almost, not quite. It's more like a 75 maybe. That's closer. But once it gets that far open, it can't open anymore. Otherwise, it's going to become a reverse ellipse. That's not how it works. To go any further, if this head continues to turn this direction, so again, if this head continues to turn, this lifts off the side like so and begins to drift further and further till you hit true profile. Okay, so again, this is true profile, this is almost true profile, this is not quite. These are both almost true profiles, but with this one we're seeing a little bit more because it hasn't attached as much as this one. So that means we're seeing a little bit more of the far side. This one we're seeing less, and this one we're only seeing the side of the face. Now the dais, again, is pointed towards us, the side of the head. Again, that side of the head is pointed towards us. So there's no perspective. We see the true 90 degrees because there's no perspective on it. Because this plane faces us. This plane is facing us. This is going back this way. This is going back that way. So this side plane faces us, so we still have a true 90. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the dais. I had some people asking about that. So the idea that this still, the top projects forward, that's the hairline. This projects forward, that's the brow line. This projects forward, that's the nose line. And then you take this and bring it down for the chin. And of course, this would be the same thing. This is the hairline, that's the brow line, that's the nose line, that's the chin line, hairline, brow line, nose line, chin line. Okay. Right now we're just turning the dais. This little circle that's the side plane, and the orientation of these lines shows you the angle. This right here is the angle, so this is, again, this person is looking down. Okay? Their head has turned down this direction, and we know that because of the dais, just like it's a knob. Oh. Well, I got them both turning down, don't I? We're going to... Maybe I can switch this one. Which would be the easiest one to switch? Because these guys are both looking down. Originally I was going to have one looking up. So let's go ahead and take this out. And we'll go ahead and just flip this. So this will be the brow right there. This will be the nose. This would be the hairline. By the way, the other thing about Loomis that a lot of people don't do, and you need to do it. If you don't do it, you know, you're just not gonna you're not gonna improve until you do it. It's one of those things that there's certain things in art that if you're not gonna do anything until you actually work the steps. And so there's a lot of people out there that again that are teaching Loomis. A lot of great folk, you know, Proco and others, that are just really, you know, really great at what they're doing. And you know, they'll tell you, hey, if you're going to do this, you need to draw this 100 times. And you want to do that. If you're going to, and by doing this, you like little sketches. I mean, that's where you're going to get your little piece of paper here, and you know, just do some heads just to practice. That's there. Put the dais on. Okay, there's my dais. Bring over the lines over here. That's the corner. This is where, you know, go ahead and set up the head. That's that there. That's that there. This then's going to come off of here. That's going to be the nose. You take the same distance down here. That's now the chin. Find the center line, which is probably going to be closer to there. And then just go ahead and finish out that head using those ideas of Loomis. Okay, and you know that's you want to do 100 of those. Now you don't do them all in one day, obviously. You know, do 5 or 10 in a day, but that's a very quick, you know, just a very quick Loomis head where we've laid out. This is the side plane. This is the brow line. This is the hairline, brow line, nose line, chin line. And we've got ourselves a Loomis head. I think this dais is a little bit, it's not quite, it's a little bit, the 2/3 is not 2/3. This is almost a 3/4, 1/4. And so this is a little bit too large. But the idea is you want to get a feel for it like that. I'd be like, nope, that's wrong. And you just go, all right. Now there's times where you might have someone with a longer face. That might be fine. But try to do the true Loomis where you're trying to do 2/3, 1/3. Slow it down if you need to. And then just, you know, go ahead and do it. So with this one, we're actually having someone whose head is tilted back now instead of tilted down. And this would then be, this is not quite straight. There we go. So if you have to turn your paper, no big deal. That's no harm, no foul. But even if you have to, like, okay, he's tilting up, but I need to bring it down so I can have an easier time with the angles. Again, that's not a problem either. Okay, so again, we've got ourselves, you know, with this person, we've got it now. They're tilting their head back. This again is the nose line. We take this in half, and that would be the bottom of the lip. If you were doing Riley, we could break this into thirds, and the first third would be the division between the lips. It just depends on which set of proportions or, you know, that you're doing and measurements and such. So again, if you cut it in half, this is the bottom of the lip. If I do it in thirds, well, you got different landmarks. It just depends on which landmarks you're using. So this person's head is now tilting up. Now remember, the jaw is always behind this line. Okay, and not only that, but we also have so I just cut this in half. The reason I like cutting that in half for the bottom of the lip is that also tells me something about the jaw. The jaw has to clear that mark before it actually starts to then, you know, change the angle. So that's important to understand. Now this would, you know, it can break through there, like right there. I lifted it just a little bit because it seemed like it was too square. And there are people that will have more of a square jaw, but I just lifted a little bit, but it's still waiting until it hits here to transition. If you're transitioning all the way up here, you've just broken that person's jaw. So you want to make sure that, again, I like to have that landmark because that's where the jaw has two angles. It has a down angle, and then it has where it comes up to meet the face. And that's what that is right there. Again, we have the brow, the hairline, the nose line, and then I just took that divided in half-ish. Because I'm on a flat surface, I actually can't see. I can't really tell as well if that's perfect. You know, I don't think it's perfect. I think it's off a bit. But the idea is this person, because the dais is showing this person's, you know, there's that angle. And again, the center line should be parallel. And yeah, that's parallel to that. And same thing with this. This line here says, all right, there's the center line. It should be parallel to it. Yep, pretty much. And then, of course, this is parallel to that. So we just want to make sure that we think about always that this, the center line, and if we wanted to put on the corner, because this is, we actually have two corners with this one. We're seeing the corner here and the corner here. These corners are parallel to those lines. So again, if we had this one, it would be parallel to that. If we had this one, it would be parallel to that. Not quite as important on the profile, but on the 3/4 and the front view, it's far more important. This, we just have to bring it on out. Yeah. And then we just, you know, if we're going to put on the nose, like this might come down in here into the glabella, and then start to project out for the nose. You know, you'd start to develop this into something that looks more like a person. There's the nose. And then we have the fact that the muzzle projects a little bit. Okay. You know, and all that good stuff. So septum transitions, you know, just below the septum, the skin attaches it to the face. Ball of the nose, it's a little too pointed. You know, we could start to develop this into something that looks like somebody. You know, put in the nostril, put in the wing, put in the eye, all that good stuff. So again, this is right here. We just bring this down, cut this in half, so it has to at least hit there before it transitions down here, and then straightens out a little bit. Doesn't straighten out, but it starts to rest a little bit or transition into the chin. But this right here is our, again, our true profile. And again, it's very, very important that you have that, or that you understand how to create that. And again, if this is the brow and this is the nose, between the nose and the brow, that's where the ear is. And the ear is going to be set at an angle, and depending on whether they have a big ear or a small ear, like this person right here has, you know, sort of a moderate medium ear sort of a thing, that would be where you go ahead and put the ear on. Now, it's in profile, so that ear is going to really, you're going to see all the ear. It's not going to be in perspective at all. So that ear has opens up quite a bit on most people. Again, so this person has a small to, small medium sort of an ear. You know, and as you grow, as you get older, ears and noses are the only two things that continue to grow. So, you know, there's going to be some certain people that are going to have, bigger ears in general, but then as the person gets older, their ear continues to grow. So sometimes you have people that I have a brother who has really tiny, was born with really tiny ears, and now that he's, almost middle-aged, his ears are almost normal, and then, they'll continue to grow until he gets older. And if you're someone like me who has a little more prominent ear, I started out with some, we'll just say a little stronger ear. By the time I hit my 80s, I'll probably look like a Ferengi, if anyone knows the Star Trek reference there. But again, the ear is always behind this mark. The ear is always between the nose and the brow line. Again, the dais gives us the lift. Are they tilting back this way? Are they tilting down this way? And the dais, this is the eye. So this is the eye. So now that they're looking down, this one, they've lifted the brow's looking up. This one, they're looking straight ahead. So we want to think about that as we're dealing with Loomis, and when you're drawing it and doing the portrait. I should probably mention that sometimes there's all kinds of ways to use Loomis. So you have people that are fine art people doing fine portraiture. They're going to be a little more attentive to detail of proportions. You have other people that are doing more caricature and illustration, where you're not really caring quite so much that it look exactly like the person, but that it looks enough like them that you go, yeah, I know who that is. And so they can do a little bit more caricaturization. They can make a little more caricature. And by caricature, I don't mean like goofy or like cartoony, but I mean they're exaggerating features that even more so, a little bit more. Now, not super big, but they're still exaggerating a little bit. So you go, oh yeah, I know who that is. Yeah, because of the exaggeration. And then there's other fine artists that are like, look, I'm not exaggerating at all. I'm putting it down like it is. And that's just, you can still get likeness either way. It's just you're using a different way to go about it. And there's certain people again that, you know, aren't doing fine art, but they do wonderful portraits, and you immediately go, yeah, I know who that is. But if you actually had the photograph of that person and started to measure it and such, you'd say, oh, look, they kind of lifted this, or they kind of changed that, or they exaggerated this slightly. And you're just like, but it still looks like the person. How did they do that? The caricature artist or really good illustrators know, this is what I have to get right. If I don't get this right, it won't look like that person at all. Whereas the portraiture person goes, no, okay, I'm doing this for people that have looked at this face for decades, and their family has to recognize them. That's a whole different ball game. And so again, I'm just saying that neither one is wrong, neither one is right nor wrong. It's just that if you're using this method, you're going to use it slightly different depending on what you're trying to do. So anyways, we'll talk more about Loomis. I just wanted to give a little bit cleaner example of this tilting, you know, down or up, or just looking straight ahead. But we wanted to talk about the tilt. Let's actually spell this correctly, I guess. Instead of with an E, let's use an I. So we want a tilt that's either down, right, which is this one, or we want a tilt that's up. So an upward tilt, and that's this one. So yeah, no big deal. Go ahead, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, we're going to do a couple more on Loomis. We're going to do the turning of the head this way. And again, we'll talk about how that distorts a little bit. We're going to talk about how to get perspective middle. We're going to talk about some more extreme tilts and how to deal with them and still use the rudiments of Loomis. When you get into those extreme angles, you have to use it in a more intuitive way. And again, to use it in a more intuitive way, you have to understand the box and you have to understand perspective. The better you understand that, the better off your drawing will be. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed it. Again, this has been Kevin McCain with Kevin McCain Studios and Idaho Art Classes. Go ahead and use these ideas. Use Loomis. It's a wonderful method. You guys take care now. Be more creative. Bye-bye.